Welcome to Part 1, Introduction and Preview, in my Data Virtualization series. Today I'm going to cover the following topics. Why data virtualization? What and how? Use cases. Preview of use case visualization. This is the world without data virtualization. You see at the top of the diagram, you have a number of applications: BI reports, AI, machine learning, microservices. And you'll notice that each of these applications is tightly coupled to the security capabilities of the data sources. And each application may solve the data access and integration in a different way, resulting in inconsistent and decentralized control of data. Over time, these applications will be difficult to maintain, and especially when you're trying to add a new data source, then you may have to change the application's logic extensively. Enter data virtualization. You can recognize right away that the diagram is a lot cleaner and simpler, with the addition of an extra layer called data virtualization layer. The applications are no longer tightly coupled to the data sources directly. Instead, it always goes through the data virtualization layer. This means that security is centrally administered by the data virtualization layer. And what the data virtualization layer does, in addition to administering the security, is that it allows you to aggregate data from the various data sources and assemble it in something called a virtual relational database, or VDB, with one or more virtual tables. Data is actually not stored within the virtual database. Instead, whenever there is a need, it will go and get the information directly from individual data sources. You can consider it as a near real-time kind of approach to retrieving your data. Your applications now use standard interfaces to access the relational database, the virtual relational database. For example, for BI dashboard and reporting, you'll be using JDBC or ODBC to access the virtual database. Your AI and machine learning applications will use the data virtualization layer as an abstraction layer to unify the access of data from various data sources to train your model. And for microservices, you'll be using the RESTful API to access the data via the virtual database. Let's contrast this to the previous approach. Number one, the applications are no longer tightly coupled to the various data sources. Two, security is administered centrally by the data virtualization layer. Three, the virtual databases don't contain any data. It only serves as a go-between. When you ask for data, it will go and fetch them from various data sources and combine them and feed it back to you. Let's have a look at a couple of specific use cases for data virtualization. The challenge here is that we all know that as we put more data into a relational database, its performance is going to degrade. That's why a lot of enterprises adopted the approach to archive all this old data and remove them from the database to reduce the data size in order to maintain an acceptable performance of the database. This is all good until all of a sudden you need to access this historical data, for example, because of changes in regulations. Then you're faced with a dilemma, whether you want to restore all the data back to the relational database and notify all your performance gains. Or 2, restore the historical data in another database without impacting the current database. But using approach 2, you also introduce some issues. For example, now your applications have to handle 2 databases. Potentially, you may have to change the logic, the business logic within your application by quite a bit. And this is when data virtualization can help. You can see that in here, I have 2 data sources. The one database containing the current data and the other database which contains the old data. You can aggregate the information and create a single view by using data virtualization to create a virtual relational database with one or more virtual tables. And then you can access that information from the application. The application will see only one virtual database without having to access individual data sources here and here. That is one use case. The other use case is to augment information with real-time data. Let's say you already have customer, product, and stock holding information in a database. And now you have to calculate the total worth of a customer based on the current stock price. For example, you want to do that in order to cross-sell and upsell based on a customer's worth. As you know, these are all sensitive information. That means you require access control. Again, this can be done easily with data virtualization. Here in the relational database, you have the customer information, product, and stock holdings. And then you have a web surface which can retrieve the current price of a particular stock. You can combine the two and put it into and create a virtual database with one or more virtual table for your application to access. And as for access control, you can make use of Red Hat single sign-on or key cloak integration, in which you can assign different roles to different users. By having a particular role, you can access certain data. Without a particular role, you may not be able to access certain data, and that's how you're going to control access. Now, let me just give you a preview of what's to come. So first of all, the Openshift is the deployment environment. And use case 1 is implemented using data virtualization operator. Use case 2 is implemented using Spring Boot and secured using Red Hat single sign-on or key cloak. And in a short while, I'll be showing you how to interact with the virtual database using ODATA and JDBC. Now, here is a short preview of what's to come in the next videos. Here, you can see that I have many pods running and a couple of databases, MySQL and PostSQL, and also there are more than one virtual database running. So here's a preview, like one of the way to create a virtual database is by using the data virtualization operator, which I'll show you in the next video how you're going to install it. So you click on virtual database. So I already created the view. So if you create a new one, you click on this. I'll just show you what I did with the virtual database for use case 1. So all you have to do is to paste in the DDL to create the virtual database, and also provide it with a number of, well, for example, the credentials of your databases, etc. And that's it. I'll guide you through step by step next time. So in order to access this virtual database, what you can do is you can just go to roots, union, and then just access it using ODATA. So I just hit this. As you can see, it's a really verbose. So what I'm going to do is ask it to display in JSON format. So you can see in here it's actually combined the two databases, the content of the two databases. Each database only have 3 entries in this, 3 entries. Now you get 6, so that is how it works. Next, I'm going to show you how to interact with the virtual database I created for use case 2. So this time I'm using a Squirrel SQL client, and I'm using JDBC. The first thing I want to do is to connect to it. So it succeeded in connecting. So what I can do now is to run this. As I said earlier, I need to provide access. I only allow it to access like the current stock price. So if I run this now, you can see that it retrieves the stock price for IBM. So if I try to access the other virtual tables, you see that it forbids me to do that. Right. Now let me log in as another user. This user have a different role, and it allows it to access everything. So I'll just log in as this particular user. Again, I access the first virtual table. Now I can access that. I want to access the second virtual table. Again, I have no problem accessing it. Third one. It's going to calculate the total worth of a particular customers. So that's it for this particular demo. As I said, this is only a preview. Now I have covered these topics today. Why data virtualization? What and how? Use cases. Preview of use case realization. And in the next videos, you'll expect to see me providing you with a step-by-step guide to realizing these use cases. Just now I showed you the interaction with the virtual databases. In the forthcoming video, I'll be showing you a more detailed interaction in action. And also I shall be publishing the source code for the virtual databases to GitHub so that you can have a look or download it and play around with it. There you have it. This is part 1 in my data virtualization series. Thank you for watching, and remember to stay tuned for the next video. Thank you.